Welcome to Alex and Annie, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are back for the first of the month episode. It is March of 2022. Annie, I swear this year is just flying by.
It really has. I told somebody the other day, it felt like we've packed 4 months into the first 2 months of the year. So I think this year is going to outpace last year in terms of just the speed at which we go through it.
Yeah, it's almost like, you just have to take a step back and try and make some pause and time here, because it really is. It's crazy how fast the year has gone. And, from a booking perspective and a company perspective here at Condo World, we are just rocking and rolling. I mean, we're getting an unbelievable amount of early bookings for this summer and into the fall, monthly stays coming in for next winter. So a lot of, different range of booking windows, but great rates across the board. We're seeing much higher prices, relatively higher prices, fairly higher prices, depending, but overall just better rate in general. So good signs for us. And I know that's reflected in the other destinations too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was just talking to a partner this morning in Texas, and we were looking at kind of his pace, and he's ahead of pace. So we actually increased rates and kind of, put some more restrictions in it, but his revenues are pacing almost 30% year over year. And last year was a record year for them. So, it seems a little ludicrous to think that we're going to make, these people can make more than they did last year. But one focus that we're putting on for a lot of our partners is just really about the ADR, because with staffing issues, they're just not able to handle the demand, and it kind of moving away from really focusing on occupancy and revenue and just really focusing on the revenue. As long as revenue doesn't slow, I think we're okay. The second half of the year will be interesting, but so far anything goes at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's going to be an exciting year. And I think, just today, mask mandates have been lifted in several parts of the country for indoor use. So that's great. I think that's going to make a big difference here going forward. Anybody that was on the fence about not wanting to travel, that's going to continue to get less and less. And we were looking at the Longwoods International and Miles survey about travel sentiment. And really, I mean, the thing right now that they're showing that is impacting travelers' decision to travel within the next 6 months, their personal financial situation is the number one reason that they're considering or thinking about whether or not they're going to travel. Underneath that is COVID. So
yeah, I think that's it's only going to get worse, unfortunately, with everything going on in the Ukraine. That's going to affect gas prices, and a lot of the vacation rental markets are drive markets, and that's kind of an indicative to gas prices will make that fluctuate in terms of what people are doing. And maybe overall what it'll do is it'll just affect the booking window. I think people still want to travel. They just might be a little hesitant to book too far out at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, time will tell, and I'm sure it's going to feel like when we record this episode for next month, it's going to feel like a blink of an eye since the time we recorded this one.
Yeah, but another 4 months will have gone by.
But yeah, exactly.
But we started out the month you talk about a crazy high.
Yeah,
really, really incredible. I guess accolade from the International Hospitality Institute. They recognized Alex and Annie in the top 30 of hospitality podcasts. And we actually weren't number 30. We were, I think, number 28, 29. So we weren't, but just again, the people that we were up against are people that have been doing this for a long time. And to think that we've only been doing this since November, and we got kind of a recognition from a respected part of the industry. And I thought interesting enough was that it was hospitality as a whole, and most of the people that were recognized were more on the hotel sector. So not a lot of vacation rental. None of our, I think, with the exception of Will Slickers having one of his podcasts on there. I don't think there was anybody else really from the vacation rental side of things. So it'd be interesting to see. So I guess we have a goal to maintain being in the top 30 and hopefully getting in the top, I think, first, second, third place next year.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't even have that as a goal, but now we know our goals. So
yeah,
that's pretty exciting.
We did set our goal as taking over the Hoda and Jenna show on the NBC. On
right,
the Today Show.
Right, yeah.
But I mean, that's a little farther down the road.
Hopefully, with the Today Show would certainly come the top 30 award. So
I would hope so.
Go hand in hand. But I remember when I got that notification on LinkedIn, I texted you and I was like, "Is this real?"
Right.
It just didn't seem right. And then I looked up the International Hospitality Institute, and I mean, it's an incredible organization, and they do all sorts of different awards within our industry. I'd encourage anybody to go look them up on LinkedIn. But between social media and operations and all different kinds of awards for outstanding players in the space. So it was a huge honor for us to be nominated on there. And yeah, I think that was interesting. That was mostly hotel-based podcasts that we were competing against. So interesting and very exciting for the future to see what else we can rack up.
Yeah. And I think on that note, like we've gotten such positive feedback from everybody that listens. So anybody that's out there listening to this episode, thank you for carving a little time out of your day, your week, your commute, your walk on the treadmill, your run around the neighborhood with the kids to listen to us. We appreciate it. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we appreciate everyone's feedback and encouragement and support. And it's not an easy thing. As we started this, we realized how difficult of a thing it was. And it's been a heck of a journey so far, but the support of everyone around us makes us want to continue to do it. So very appreciative for that.
Yes.
But looking back on the month, so, we're still in kind of the quiet off season right now, as far as events and conferences are concerned. So I went to one. This is the first event that I've been to this year, which was GNEX, GNEX, which was in Vegas. I just got back from that last week. And Annie, I know I told you a little bit about it, but it was an incredible event. I mean, talk about a world-class conference with lot to learn from these folks. But I was invited to go out there. GNEX it's a vacation ownership timeshare collective, and it's mostly C-level executives at these companies, developers, and their vendors that come to this event, and kind of a meeting of the minds. It reminds me a little bit of OPMA, where you and I met. That was kind of a small conference too. There's about 250 people, I believe.
Oh, wow.
But it was at the Wynn Encore in Vegas. I mean, that's one of the nicest properties. And it was funny, when I got there, I walked in to check in, and I haven't been to Vegas since COVID, but I just remember everybody saying that they're very, very strict when people are at the tables with masks, and in common areas that you have to have a mask on. And I walked in and nobody had a mask on. And I thought, okay, maybe it's just this property is just kind of relaxed about it. But come to find out, Vegas had just lifted the mask mandate like 2 days before I had gotten there. So, and I think at that same time, Disney World also did, right, in Orlando. So I mean, that's amazing that these big destinations and attractions are now lifting that. So that's a good sign for us too. But anyways, so it was a great event, very, just wonderfully put on. Interesting to go to one of these and not know a lot of people. It's a little bit different than, I felt like this was kind of like the first day of high school versus when we went to
you've never met a stranger.
It's like a high school reunion. But yeah, no, everybody was very welcoming. And I was asked to go to this event by Amy Highnote. She was putting on a panel about vacation rental and timeshare synergies and how the two industries can potentially work together. And I'll tell you what, there's definitely a lot of ways we could work together. And we're kind of in a unique situation at Condo World because we operate on several different models here. As a property manager, that we have inventory, that we want to rent. We're also an OTA that we want inventory on our platform that we can rent. And timeshare, a lot of these properties are very, very nice properties. We'd love to work with them. And then on the technology side, timeshare is different in that when they talk about their marketing, they don't do marketing like we do. It's not PPC, it's not email marketing, it's not the traditional type of marketing that we're all accustomed to. Their marketing is to generate leads for tours. So, one of the people I was talking about there, he said, you'll never see a billboard with our company name on it. That's just not how we market.
Right.
So it's interesting to learn the different dynamics there, but they spend an unbelievable amount of money on marketing. 50% of the sales that they drive is spent back on marketing. So you think about that. I mean, that's a lot of people, and it's mostly people that's how they're doing it, by having people that are out trying to get people to sign up for the tours, and then the follow up and call centers and everything else. So it's a well-oiled machine, but a lot of revenue that goes through it and a lot of expense to make it happen. On the panel that I was on, it was Lino Maldonado with Be Home 247. Lino was also vice president of Wyndham for several years and came from the Resort Quest days. He's in your area, obviously, Annie. And also Greg Anderson, who he also worked at Wyndham with Lino back in that time period. And they talked about, how they can make it work and how they did make it work, which I thought was really interesting. And especially with the whole Wyndham situation there, obviously it's just not the same company anymore. But Lino's point was, he saw this opportunity that timeshare is rented at 102%. They always overbook. Vacation rentals on average are 65%, occupancy. So they've got plenty of room, and how can you walk a guest from one side of the house to the other and make it so that you're not, taking guests, it's not competitive, but it's actually more synergistic. And him and Greg found a way to do that. And they had just started implementing that across Wyndham nationwide when obviously they got bought by Vacasa. So things changed there significantly, but that kind of dropped off. And I think that's where Amy and these folks that I was on the panel with, also Scott Bunce from Cabins for You, we're all kind of looking at it as, okay, we do still see an opportunity there. And it's just time to bring the industries together. And this was the first opportunity to do that. But we're hoping that we can get some of those folks to come to our events as well and, figure out how we can connect the dots.
Yeah, and I think what's exciting is we were able to interview Lino immediately after the conference. And so he'll be one of the guests that we'll have on this month for you to listen to. And again, knowing Lino through his Resort Quest days and Wyndham days, and not like personally knowing him, but knowing of him and having met him a few times, he's always thinking 10 steps ahead of the industry and coming up with really great ways to make people collaborate better. Not make people, but try to get them to collaborate. And I know that from my experience at Expedia, just working with the timeshares, there's so much, it's just a no-brainer for everybody to be working together. We have the timeshares here in the Panhandle. I know you have them up in Myrtle Beach, and they're heavy in Orlando and Vegas and so many other markets that are big destinations, that there's just no reason that we can't all work together, because again, they're spending the gobs of money to market, to bring people to the area to try to sell them. Why not try to get them into some of your rentals if you have them available? So that conversation with Lino is going to be really, I think guests will enjoy it. It's enlightening. It's a lot of good ideas. And I think opens up the door to larger conversations to be had through Verma and through some of these other, maybe Amy will do something at one of the VRM Intel conferences, or, maybe there's another conference to be had that Alex and Annie can host and talk about together these two pieces.
We've still got a lot to learn, but it's all possible for sure.
It's all possible.
Yeah, no, I mean, I felt like a sponge at this event, just trying to take in as much as I could. And I was texting you the whole time. You're like, I can't believe this. So it's different, but it's similar at the same time. But one thing I think that timeshare has done really well that we could certainly learn from, and if we can figure out a way from a property management standpoint to make work, it's not essentially a loyalty program, but I guess it kind of is. Their partnerships with companies like an RCI or a loyalty-based program where they offer their owners additional places to book is really great. I mean, that makes it a fairly easy sell. I think that's a big part of how they get so many people in on it, because you might buy a certain amount of points at Marriott, for example, but then that also opens you up, not only just Marriott, but that opens you up to all these other properties and cruises and airlines and everything else that you're getting this great rate on. And, we're looking at that as, okay, we've always wanted to do a loyalty program, and we've explored it, but we haven't moved forward with it. But I think there's an opportunity within vacation rentals for somebody to really capitalize on that. And I mean, what a great tool for owner acquisition as well as guest retention. So we're going to be looking into some options there. And I think, just even getting some of their vendors to explore vacation rentals, one of which, Guest View Guide, big shout out to their crew. They won a major award. They have these awards at the end of the conference, and they recognize somebody from each category, and they won best consumer product. But they were the only people that were there besides the panelists and I that come from the vacation rental side. Oh wow! And we all kind of bonded together as we were trying to piece things together. But Guest View Guide's a great example of that. That's definitely a product, and I think there's a lot of other vendors that could bridge the gap and open up their offerings. But it's going to be exciting to see. I'm glad that this was the first time that we've had that conversation, and the folks that were there from the timeshare side are very interested to talk to us and learn from us too. So that was exciting.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad you had a good time. I know it was an adventure, to say the least, to just be out there.
Yeah, well, I got stuck. I didn't get exactly stuck. My luggage got home, but I didn't get home, so I had an extra day in Vegas, which isn't the worst thing that could possibly happen. But it was a good trip though.
Yeah, good.
But
well,
we've got VRMA Chicago coming up too, so that's not in March, that's in April. But Annie and I are both signed up. We will be there, so hopefully we'll see everybody at that event too. Other things coming up for the month of March, we've got some great episodes. Starting tomorrow is going to be Jennifer Barbie, she is a destination marketing expert. Annie, you've known Jennifer for years, right?
Yeah, I was on the marketing committee for the Panama City Beach CVB when they came in to pitch doing the digital marketing for the destination. And she's just a dynamic human being from all perspectives. And we've stayed in touch and stayed friends, and we've just always talked. And she's someone who, she gets it, like she gets every piece of the industry. And I think what was really enlightening from her was that she works with a lot of smaller destinations. She has worked with large ones like Panama City Beach, like Visit Florida. She's done some things. She's doing things over in Europe as well. She's just all over the board, but she's doing some small destinations. And she said that she noticed that there was more conversation about, how do we as a destination incorporate vacation rentals?
Yeah.
We need to recognize them. They've been such a huge reason that the destination survived through COVID. So she talks a little bit about that. And I think, again, it speaks perfectly to where we're trying to take the show, is to all these pieces of the industry that are, kind of in the background of everybody's day. They're very important for you to consider when you're doing your marketing or how you're doing your owner campaigns, to get new owners on plan. You have to really work with your destination marketing organization. And Jennifer talks a lot of it about that. And then we're going to have Stuart, who is from your neck of the woods, from your CVB, have him on as well to talk about the destination marketing and the importance of it.
Yeah, no, it was great talking to both of them. And again, we go in these bursts of recording episodes. I guess like we've got a bunch planned for the next few months, actually. But yeah, we just recorded Stuart's this past week, and he's just a brilliant mind. I know a lot of our listeners know him, Stuart Butler. But that was a great one. And yeah, Jennifer is just dynamite. So her understanding of the marketing side of things is just phenomenal. And working with the CVBs, and really at the end of the day, just like you said, what we've learned from all this, and I guess what you and I've learned over the years, and what we're trying to do with this show is connect the dots. And connecting the dots can mean a lot of different things, but in this case, we want people to understand how to leverage their destination marketing organizations, whether you're directly involved or indirectly involved, but knowing how that benefits your business as a vacation rental company, how to leverage those into more direct bookings. And even, connecting the dots with the other industries, back to the timeshare thing, that's also part of how we're trying to do this too. So that's going to be a good episode. And, after that, we've got Lino, who's going to be coming on, Lino Maldonado. We're going to go into a little bit more depth about the timeshare side, and he's going to share his experience directly with Wyndham that we just referenced. And we've also got Pete DeMeo. We were on Pete's show a couple of weeks ago, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And his podcast is the Travel Boom marketing podcast, hotel marketing podcast. And we went on there and talked about the top 5 things hotels can learn from vacation rentals. And then he's going to come on our show in March and talk about the top 5 things that vacation rentals can learn from hotels. And Pete is a genius as well. So he's super smart and very informed on all sides of marketing. So that's going to be a great episode.
I think one of the things that I have definitely firmed up in my mind is that there are some brilliant people in our industry.
Yeah.
And they're we wouldn't have gotten the opportunity. I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have ever met Pete. And I had met Stuart through Atma, but some of these people that were coming across and just their minds in the industry, what they're bringing to the forefront of getting people to think outside the box and getting people to really think about different ways to approach the business is really, that's been great for me. I've loved all of that.
Oh, absolutely. That's the one thing anybody asks when they ask me, how's the podcast going? I say, it's going great. It's so much fun, because it really is. It's enlightening having these conversations with these amazing people that, some of them are newer to the industry. Many of them have been in it for a long time. And, we talked about this on Lino's episode. So many of these great minds come from your neck of the woods in the Panhandle. And there's that whole crew that kind of grew up back in the 90s of, when vacation rentals were coming on. And it's so interesting to hear about their stories and see the genesis of their careers as they've all gone through different stages in them. But, they're still the leaders within the space, and what they've brought to whatever their current role is so clear that they've been in the industry for a long time, and they've just taken that knowledge to really excel with it. So very exciting to be able to have those conversations.
Yeah, yeah. It's going to be, I don't know. I just think we have so many different conversations that we can have over the next few months.
Yeah.
Just explore. So it's exciting. But one of the things we've really tried to work on is making sure that people are giving us feedback. And I haven't had anybody say, I wish you guys were doing something different. I wish you were doing that. No one has said that. Everybody has said what you guys are doing for the industry is so needed. It's the conversations are timely, they're engaging, they love what we're doing. So I know that this year is just going to be, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be busy.
Yep.
We know we've got a full plate of guests lined up, but I'm really thrilled that people are receiving the show as well as they are. And that kind of brings me to, we've gotten a lot of good reviews lately, and some of them are just kind
Yeah.
of astounding. And I thought we could read a couple just to thank people for giving us the feedback.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great idea. A great
Yeah.
idea.
So,
Yeah, actually,
oh, go ahead. I'm
oh, no,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to read one because
Sure. Yeah, please
it
do.
really meant a lot to me, because it's a person that another person I would never have had the opportunity to meet in the industry. He doesn't even come from vacation rentals. Is Alex Aliotto from Wimstay, and
Yeah.
I am on the advisory board or advisory board for Wimstay, and just kind of do some consulting on the side with them to talk about what they could be doing better as an OTA, and how they're
Okay.
growing, as an OTA. So it meant a lot for him to give me this feedback, or us this feedback. But he posted this on, I think it was Apple iTunes. He said, "Not sure that you'll find a better combination of industry chops and informative, charming dialogue with these two STR mainstays. Whether the plan is to learn as you enter the industry or grow as you're already in it, I love this podcast because it caters to the gamut. Smart, well-intentioned badasses, always a lethal combo in a podcast. Couldn't recommend it enough." Now,
So
I mean,
nice.
he called us badasses. So I mean,
Well, so you know what's really funny that I just noticed listening back to, we had Ben, the CEO of Wimstay, on the show
yeah.
the episode aired this past week. And at one point he says, I think you asked him like what makes Wednesday different, and he has these long pauses. He said, "Can I say that we're badasses?" And I both
Yeah,
started
he
laughing. I said,
did.
"Of course you can say that." So I think that's a term that they throw around there quite a bit, but in the
Yeah.
best meaning of it. But I love
Yeah.
it. They are such a cool company, and gosh, I mean the culture that Ben has created for them. Alex is wonderful. I've only gotten to know him just through LinkedIn, but they're such
Yeah.
a great company, and to get that recommendation from people like them is wonderful. So we very much appreciate Alex at Wimstay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And
Yeah.
so I've got one other one too, Annie.
Oh, yeah.
This one came from Roxanne Olson, who she is just a sweetheart, and she has a small vacation rental company that she is trying to grow, and I think she's doing some amazing things. And she reached out to us and sent us an email with some questions on how we suggest she grow her business, and it was just really fun to go back and forth with her and offer some advice. But she said, "I absolutely love this podcast. I came across it about a month ago and binged it like a series on Netflix.
Oh,
These girls are so motivational and inspirational. I love each and every one of their guests, but the episode with Julie George speaks volumes to me. Thanks, Alex and Annie. You girls rock." I've had several people say that they really love Julie's episode, because I think there's so much interest from people that are new to the space that I think they can relate to a Julie that she started from scratch. I don't think what she created is common at all. I mean, like, she literally started from one listing and grew it to over 200 before selling the company in a rather short amount of time. But it's, like she said, if you put your mind to it, anything is possible. And it's just a great message.
yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. There's like no words at this point. There's just so much great feedback, and we've obviously inspired people. And Roxanne's note was just great, because she did send us a personal
Yeah.
email to engage with us on another level. And I feel like we're inspiring, but we're also bringing conversations and bringing information to people that maybe, like in Roxanne's case, she's newer to the industry, so she doesn't know
Yeah.
where to go look for it. And
Mhm.
without even being I think we're being intentional without being intentional, maybe, if that's a way to
Right,
say it.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
been great.
yeah, yeah. No, thank you so much, Roxanne. We truly appreciate the review and that you're listening. And one other thing that just hit me too that I wanted to mention, of connecting the dots of themes that we're seeing between our guests. Julie George said that, why not just make a crack at it, just give it all you got and see what's the worst that can happen. And we've had several guests that have kind of said that same thing, that Vered from Guesty, she said that that anything is possible. I mean, if you put your mind to it, anything is solvable, I think is how she said it.
Yeah.
And Ben from Limstay said essentially the same thing on our episode this week too. And it's interesting seeing these top leaders, that their mindset is so similar, that they're all very positive people, and they just have that sense of determination in them, that it's really about, you have to have the tenacity to want to figure something out. Everything is figure outable. And I think isn't that a book?
If not, it should be.
Yeah. But yeah, so really cool. And one other thing that we noticed too between our guests, how many of the men guests we've had that have a pilot's background or have worked in airline.
That was a weird thread. Yeah, that was a really weird thread.
Yeah, Simon Lehman ran Swissport Airlines. That was one of the first ones that we noticed.
Yeah.
And then Jim DeVos ran
Piedmont.
Piedmont Airlines.
Piedmont Airlines, yeah, marketing for them.
I believe.
Yeah.
And then iTrip, Steve Caron, his episode was great too. He was in the Air Force. Just really interesting. So that's a unique thing that we've noticed, but it makes sense. I mean, if you're a pilot or in that realm of work, you're very detail oriented, which that leads to becoming a great operator in anything you do. In our space, being that detail oriented is key to success.
Absolutely. And I was thinking about this morning, thinking about this episode and the takeaways from the different guests that we had this month. And all of them had really great things to say. Like you said, Ben, it was just positive, and Vered, she's just incredible being a woman leader in tech. But the one thing that stands out to me that just makes me laugh every time I think about it is that we learned that chickens are the OG Mean Girls.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was looking back, and actually what's so funny is Steve Caron's episode has gotten almost more listens than like even he's climbing up there into one of the top listened episodes in a short amount of time. So again, he's got a colorful background, and my takeaway from him was that chickens are mean. So
yeah, they are the original Mean Girls. And gosh, when he was telling us the story about how he brought the one chick into his home, and they're like his pets. I mean, he loves these chickens, him and his wife. But it's fun seeing the softer side of all of our guests. It is.
Well, and then the fact that everybody's they're not so so into their business or into their career that's all that they have. It doesn't define them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we're very blessed, Annie, to be able to do this and do it together and talk to these wonderful people. So thank you everyone for listening to this past month, and we hope that you'll continue listening. If you would like to leave us a review, we would love to hear from you. Any feedback you have, or if you have ideas for topics you'd like us to talk about or explore, or anybody that you'd like to have us have on the show, we'd love to hear from you. So if you go to Apple Podcasts, is going to be probably the best place to write a review. But if you don't use Apple, you can use whichever podcast service you use, or you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. And from there, that links to where you can put a review just right on our website, or contact us with any feedback. So thank you, everybody. Here's to a great month of March 2022. Cheers. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see we've got our little Alex and Annie coffee cups. There we go. Cheers. Thanks, everybody.